Dinner in Hell Band. Well, thank you once again, Dinner in Hell Band.
Dinner in Hell Band, the best podcast house band in the business. Can't fuck with them.
Is that our opening? Are we going to open up that calm?
Sure.
Why don't you bring it in?
Dinner in Hell Band, ladies and gentlemen.
Man,
listen to them.
Caught me off guard doing that.
Oh,
windmill with your arm.
Again.
When you start standing up doing the air guitar, it catches me off guard.
Yeah, or like the Roger Daltrey. I'm constantly spinning this microphone that I podcast into around over my head.
Brad bought a microphone at Salvation Army, real cheap, and he swings it around like it's this legit mic.
Yeah,
relieves stress with it. He said.
But I'm just trying to look cool for this awesome audience we got on here.
It's just an attractive audience today.
Yeah, I think by the end of the show, just because they're listening to it, they'll be even better looking.
There must be like a convention for auto show car models. Mm-hmm. And they're all here. Thanks for coming, ladies.
Oh, check it out. Cristiano Ronaldo.
Oh.
What's up, man?
Hey.
Yeah, thanks for coming. We need you back in Manchester soon, though. Just so you know.
Who is he an athlete?
Yeah.
I'm glad that he's here. You look great, Ronaldo.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that foot safe, your kicking foot safe. The foot you kick the ball with, keep it safe.
All right, so to CR7 and everyone else in the audience, welcome back to another exciting edition of the Dinner in Hell podcast, the show where two amateur historians talk about history's atrocious underbelly. I am one of your hosts, Brad the Impaler, and with me, as always, Ron Maiden Esquire.
Thank you once again, Brad the Impaler, for a great introduction to this awesome moment we get to share together weekly.
Mr. Maiden, what will we be talking about today?
Today, we're going to be talking about one of the least known or discussed cults of human history.
Absolutely.
We're going back to Greek times.
Mm-hmm. Ancient Greece. Way back.
Probably known as, after today's episode, as one of the nerdiest cults
yes,
of our time.
I would definitely agree with that assessment. All right, this guy, you've probably all heard his name before. Pythagoras.
Yes.
Yeah, Pythagoras of Samos, the ancient Greek.
If you've had geometry, you heard his name. High school geometry. Yep. Everybody knows that.
Absolutely. So, Pythagoras was born on the island of Samos in the eastern Aegean Sea to a wealthy family in 570 BCE. We're talking way back.
570 before Jesus walked the earth?
Correct.
As a young toddler?
Yep, we are going way, way back. And because it's so old, we don't have a ton of information on his upbringing. But we do know that he was privileged. He was from a privileged family because he had an incredible education. He had religious education that was Greek from the Delphic priestess Themistoclea, who taught him all about his mysticism and his religious foundations.
What type of religions were taught in Greek? Like gods?
Yeah, it would have been the Hellenic sort of Greek paganism.
Okay. You're saying he was taught religion in Greek?
Yes, absolutely. It would have been, Apollo, Zeus, Hermes,
Ares, all that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He was also taught Egyptian, other cultures. His geometry education based on, I don't know, I'm not a very good mathematician, but evidently based on the way he accomplishes certain geometric tasks, they've been able to trace
like his education to an Egyptian origin.
Okay.
Yeah, so he either traveled to Egypt to learn it or had an Egyptian tutor who was teaching him geometry specifically. There's also evidence in his other mathematical work that he had, though they call it Oriental influences on his mathematical work, which I guess would be either Chinese or Indian.
Okay.
I assume that those would have been the only two sort of other cultural centers in the area that he may have been, dealing with.
In the Orient.
Yep, over in the Orient.
The old classic Orient. Wouldn't Thailand be the Orient? Like Shanghai and...
Yeah, but I don't know what was going on there. I don't know if they would have had the same level of civilization. I mean, China would have been sort of probably more developed than Greece would have been at that period in time.
I heard back in 570 BC, China was already overpopulated by like 4 mil.
I don't know about that.
Smog was already happening in China. It's when it started.
Yeah, like
beginning of smog.
Where's the smog coming from? They have like gas oxen that they're...
Yeah, there's too many oxens releasing gas. You got like 570 BCE in China. They're running around with surgical masks and shit because of the ox farts.
Yeah, because the air is so bad.
I wouldn't think of Japan as like the Orient. I don't know. Japan's different. Japan's like snowy.
Yeah, I think that I think I read somewhere that the Orient specifically means India and China.
Okay,
but I could be making that up.
No,
I could be.
You call it making it up. I call it amateur.
Yeah,
I mean,
I feel like that's true. So I probably read it somewhere, but I can't remember. Sort of the accuracy of that particular source.
Yeah, and I don't see any kind of motivation for you to make that up.
Yeah, I'm not doing it on purpose.
We're gonna call.
I suppose it could be an accident.
Call it dinner and hell facts.
Yeah, dinner and hell fact. A fact-ish. Yeah, so we don't have a ton of information about, his young adulthood and his childhood, but history sort of picks back up interest in him around age 40 when he leaves home. He leaves Samos and he heads to Italy, to a Greek colony called Croton.
That's actually where the salad topping was invented, which we now know as croutons.
Crouton, yeah.
Stale bread squares, seasoned. Croton, yeah. Italy, is actually in the area of Italy is in the tip of like the toe of the boot.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. That's where the colony was in Magna Graecia, as they call it, the Greater Greece. There is where he establishes the Pythagorean School. Now, this place is the source of all of the good things that came from Pythagoras and all of the crazy things that came from Pythagoras. They all stem from this school / cult headquarters / temple. It's all kinds of crazy stuff. But
so you're trying to tell me that this episode that's about a friggin' math cult is going to have some kind of crazy angle to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But these things usually either are one or the other. They either are, this great historical school that produced all this incredible work that was, groundbreaking in philosophy or science or mathematics. Or it's a crazy cult where people do really weird stuff all the time. Those two things aren't usually together,
right,
as we see them here.
Yeah.
The Pythagorean School both produced like groundbreaking cultural improvements and discoveries.
Yeah.
Mathematics discoveries.
The world benefited from the existence of this cult.
Yes, the world benefited from the existence of this cult, and they were brilliant.
What did we get from Heaven's Gate? Nothing. See, that's what Brad's point he's trying to make. They didn't offer something good. They only offered the weird, like, Nike shoes, white sheet, grape Kool-Aid or whatever. They had some kind of drink that they drink next to the bed.
Yeah, and you get, like, a cool sci-fi name like Dough.
you had bunk beds.
Yeah.
So what Brad's saying is this cult did both.
Yeah.
They did messed up stuff, and they did good.
Yeah, it was really weird. I can't think of another thing like it, really.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess let's get out of the way. I mean, the good reasons why we should remember the Pythagorean School, the stuff that they gave us that we'll get to carry.
You couldn't think of another situation that did both, and I just had the thought of like, what if the Nazis also cured cancer?
Well, Nazis put us on the moon.
Did they?
Yeah. Werner von Braun, I think was his name.
I mean, it's not like he was a Nazi. He was just like not Jewish and got to live. Like, it's not like he was like born with Nazi blood.
I think most of these guys were party members.
Like, if this guy was born in, freaking South America, then Brazil would have been put on the moon. It's not just this guy. I don't know. Right? You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. He may have been born in Brazil, but if he was born in Brazil after 1945, he may have been a clone.
A clone?
Do you ever see The Boys from Brazil?
Mm-mm.
It was funny that you mentioned that. The boys from, how all the Nazis would like escape to Argentina, and that's why there's a bunch of really, really white people with names like Werner and like,
yeah.
The Boys from Brazil was about people like Nazis that escaped to South America and brought Hitler's DNA, and they created a clone, like 8 little Hitler clones. I think. Yeah, mm-hmm. It's been a long time since I've seen
Is it
that
good?
movie. I remember it being interesting.
And also the X-Men, Magneto's trying to hunt down the Nazis that like made him do the shit when he was a boy in the concentration camp, and he's in South America at that bar. He like finds those 3 guys. Remember?
Yeah, they'll occasionally like find a new Nazi. They'll be like, oh, there's 99-year-old guy in fucking Argentina as a Nazi. Mm-hmm. Like, we found him. There's people that do that. There's like a nonprofit organization that's all they do is like hunt down old Nazis that are like in hiding. They just found one recently in Syria. There were like a bunch of old Nazis that were working for like Bashar al-Assad and the Syrian government.
Jesus.
Yeah, like conducting their like fucking torture campaigns and shit.
He's like, you're doing it all wrong. You're doing it all wrong. I can't know. That's my hurry up Nazi impression. Anyways.
You've not tortured him enough.
Yeah.
You need to apply more pressure.
Did you get the answers you wanted? No, sir. Does he still have all fingernails? Let me ask you this. Move. All right, back to Greece, 570 BCE. Actually, we've moved on.
Okay, so we're going to talk about all the good stuff that came from the Pythagoreans before we got a little distracted there.
Yep. Blame it on the Nazis. I mean, shit.
Pythagoras himself is referred to as the first pure mathematician, meaning like he was the first person to really treat math to serious scientific kind of study.
Like dedicate your life to it.
Yeah. And like be able to write it down and explain things and talk about it. He was also referred to as the first man to call himself a philosopher. There were people before him who were doing the work of a philosopher, but I think the implication here is that Pythagoras coined the term philosopher, a lover of wisdom.
Okay.
And he was influential as like a mathematician, as a scientist, as a religious figure, and as a thinker in general. I mean, he was like a genius, like an Einstein, like a Hawking. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of those types. Now, why you probably remember his name from your education is that he was the first person to prove the Pythagorean theorem. Now, other people had came up with it. Other people independently, say in Mesopotamia and down in South America, like the Incans and the Mayans.
Yeah.
People in China, they all knew that, the squares of each sides of a right triangle equaled the square of the hypotenuse. A lot of different people knew that, and that predates Pythagoras by quite a bit, but he was the first person to provide a proof for history.
Broke down the formula.
Yeah, he took the squares, or the triangles rather, and arranged them inside of a square two different ways, but so that the square was always made up by the hypotenuses of the right triangles. And in the different arrangements, he compared the area of the interior square created by the hypotenuses and could show that it was the same no matter how the triangles were arranged.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that much about math, but evidently that somehow proves the theorem.
The guys he was proving it to are like, okay, got it. Yep, you get your own hypotenuse. Fine.
Yeah. I might be willing to claim the title of amateur historian, but I am absolutely not willing to claim the title of amateur mathematician. I'm not even close.
If you were, I don't think we'd be friends.
And that would never be worth it. So I'm just done learning math.
I saw a picture today on the internet. It said like a quote that you hear from your teacher, like, you're not going to be walking around with calculators with you at all times, so you're going to want to learn how to do this. And it showed a picture of a cell phone with a calculator.
Yeah, I have a calculator on me 24/7 at my beck and call. And I kind of do want to just go back to like find like my third grade teacher and just shove it right in her, just like open my cell phone with it and just drop it on her desk.
Like when we talk about going back in time and like helping people being tortured and shit, like on our way back, Brad's like, one more step.
Yeah.
I gotta go back to the high school I went to.
I like come storming in like, I'm from 2017.
Who are you?
We do carry a goddamn calculator every single place we go. Look at this.
You scan the room and try to find you sitting there. Like, you're gonna be with a woman. She's gonna do this, and this is what you're gonna do. Don't blow it.
Yeah.
Some opportunity you missed or something.
Yeah, it'll probably just be like, don't ever get a job.
I think
figure out a way.
I think Hot Tub Time Machine did something like that, where they went back and they ran into each other, or they were themselves or something. Yeah, you got to fist fight the guy.
Oh yeah, I remember that now.
If you don't.
That was a good movie. I thought it would be really stupid, right. But it wasn't. It was funny. Really good.
Yeah. How the little boy's mom was like, who's the nerd?
Yeah.
This is mom.
Yeah.
It's great. He wears a Maiden shirt.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. So it wasn't just mathematics that got a boon from Pythagoras and his disciples' research, though. It was also cosmology. Two very important cosmological sort of truths were touched upon even that far ago by the Pythagoreans. And we were talking about stuff that where people were getting like exiled and executed over in the Middle Ages 1,000 years after this. The Pythagoreans already knew this shit better. Mm-hmm. And those two things were that they were the first to move the center of the universe away from the Earth.
Okay, so you're saying up until this point, everyone believed the Earth was the center.
Yeah.
So these guys are the first to go like, look, no, we are not.
No. They are moving. They were the first one to say, we're on a planet. Like, we know how those other planets are moving. Well, guess what? We're moving too, and we're on a planet. Where this thing that we're on is the same as that thing. And because of that, they also knew that the Earth was spherical.
Come on now. That's a very controversial statement, Brad.
Sorry, Lil B, the bass god.
What?
The Earth is round.
Oh, is it a rapper? Sorry.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the Pythagoreans almost got a model of the solar system right in 500 years BCE. They had the sun almost as the center. They had it the closest thing to the center, but they didn't have it as the center of the solar system. The center of the solar system was what one of Pythagoras' disciples imagined as the celestial flame, some like big flame that the sun was also orbiting around.
He obviously had no clue that the sun was a big giant freaking flame.
Yeah.
So that's celestial.
Yeah. So it's like he almost had it, and considering people were still super wrong about this bullshit 1,000 years down the road. Well, I don't know about you. All of you out there, our constant listeners, will have to make up your own minds, but I'm going to give them this one.
Yeah, nice job.
I'm going to give it to them.
Yeah.
Their views on, cosmology included an idea of unlimiteds, which would be, like space and time and kind of shit like that, and limiters. And limiters were whatever the rules of nature were that allowed like celestial bodies to arise, like planets and stars and shit like that. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of their foundational understanding of the cosmos. And this sort of unlimiteds and limiters theory wasn't just applied to the cosmology. It was also applied to the theory of music, which was also important to the Pythagoreans.
Yeah. Bars, measures, riffs.
They weren't the first to use it, but the Pythagoreans create the first writings that we are aware of that describe an octave. Intervals like fourths and fifths.
On musical notes?
Yep. And the description of a diatonic major scale. So same major scale. Like you sit down at a piano, start on C, and just touch all the white keys till you get back up to C. Pythagoras sketched that shit out like 2,500 years ago.
Dang. Yeah. These guys were advanced.
Yeah. They built instruments, all that kind of stuff. I mean, but they weren't the first to come up with that scale. It sounds nice and pleasing. So around the world, I mean, there's evidence of like 9,000-year-old Chinese flutes that have the diatonic scale or close enough to it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they found it all over the place. Everyone came up with it, but Pythagoras is using ratios to describe the relationships of the frequencies. 25 years ago, they basically already completely understood music.
That's crazy.
I mean, all it would take was them fleshing out, on top of that, like to create modes and different scales and move the diatonic scale around. I mean, but they understood the foundation of it, how to relate one pitch to another pitch. They understood that a long time ago. Music is old game, baby. On top of this, the Pythagoreans were also to some degree socially progressive, especially for, hundreds of years before, BCE. Women were equal to men in the Pythagorean society. I mean, in some ways they were different, but in most of the ways that women were considered different by the Pythagoreans, they got special treatment. But women were given free, there was room for them to work within the philosophic tradition of the Pythagoreans. I mean, there's examples of writings that you can go read from female philosophers at the Pythagorean School, like at least a dozen of them surviving until today.
As opposed to how were women treated outside of the society? Outside of the group?
Probably mostly
tended the children,
not good,
made the food, and then the man.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like it always is.
Sub.
Yes, less than. Like they couldn't be in like the Senate and stuff like that. They weren't allowed to vote.
But it's not like women could just join the group. You had to freaking...
You had to like know your shit. Like, you had to be able to.
There's like tryouts.
Oh, there's some stuff that goes along with joining the Pythagoreans that's pretty interesting. We'll get to it a little bit. Yeah, but that's pretty righteous for 530 BCE to have women students there.
When you first started talking about them getting into cosmology, and I'm sitting here thinking like, so I'm racking my brain of how does math involve with putting makeup on? Like I was like, what is this guy? Where's he going with this? Eyeliner, freaking rouge, cover up, and then you start talking celestial, and I was like, that cosmology. Ah, see.
You know, we might have to do an episode on ancient makeup.
Yeah,
because like the Egyptians used makeup like crazy.
Body mod,
and it was like, yeah, it could be one of the body mod series. And like the makeup though is like crushed up bug shells and like shit like that. It's all like completely weird stuff, and it was like horrible for like it would be like poisonous, like destroy your skin and stuff. Like, oh, I'm just gonna rub my face with this mercury. Like it's really like that fucked up. Yeah, there's got to be. We'll do one of those in the future for sure.
They must not have had bunnies to test it on.
Yeah, or little weasels. Some adorable rodent to, pour perfume in their eyes.
Think of the cutest little adorable furry creature you can think of, and think of them testing something on it. That's
that's
what they didn't have.
You might be tempted to think of something cute, like a little cartoon bunny with lipstick on. That's not really what's going on.
That's the 76th formula of the lipstick that didn't burn the bunny. That's a successful one. That's the one you put on your lips. Thanks to all the other bunnies in the past.
Mm-hmm. Now, this last sort of bullet point here, I left for the last because some people might think this is, where we get to the crazy cult stuff. And some people like me might still think this belongs in the first half, the cool stuff. Now, the Pythagoreans were pretty successful, not only as a research institution, but as a cult. They had tons and tons of followers and members. And they devised these, all it says is they devised symbols so that they could recognize one another, even if they'd never met before. And it probably means it was something that they would wear, like attached to themselves, like some sort of plant, like in their lapel, or I don't know what the hell you call it, on their toga.
Yeah.
But I like to imagine like them just like a guy looking at another guy across like a crowded room, and he just starts like throwing up gang signs, like stacking up like his set or whatever. And the other guy,
he's doing the bunt call from baseball and shit. Steal third.
And the other guy just like is looking back at him across the way, and if he's like into it, but he's gonna start doing his like Pythagorean gang sign back at him.
Go, what up? I'm down.
Yeah, but if not, he'll just stare at him all weird. That's what I like to imagine it was. They were literally like,
"Yeah,
hey, where are you from?
Yeah, what's that you claim? Yeah,
yeah." That's what I imagine. I'll put that in the cool part of what the Pythagoreans were doing.
What hypotenuse you claim? Yeah, son. Straight up. Let's get into some freaking the atrocious underbelly of this cult.
You know what? I'm gonna
now for the bullshit.
Yeah. Now let's get on to where this Pythagorean cult was fucked up.
We're not just talking about nerdy number bullshit.
Yeah, so it wasn't just a school. It was called the Pythagorean School, but not a school. Also a full-blown religious cult. They believed that the universe was fundamentally made up of numbers. I mean, like, constructed physically somehow by numbers.
Like stone was constructed by numbers? Like a mountain?
Yes. Yeah, that somehow, like, if you dig down to the most fundamental, like, underlying
regardless of plates moving and forming mountains, regardless of that whole process.
I mean, but I assume they mean that process is made of numbers, too.
Oh, okay.
Like, everything's made of numbers. Like, when you get smaller, like, you can look at a person, then you can look at a hand. Then you could look at a fingernail. Then you could look at like an atom on the fingernail. Then you could look at like a nucleus. Like I think what they mean is when you get down to the bottom, it's literally just numbers. That's the bottom of everything.
Okay.
Yeah. which is pretty cool, but it's also weird, and it's really hard to try to understand.
Yeah.
Now, because of this, they worshipped numbers. Specifically, they worshipped the number 10. They had a special symbol of like how 10 was arranged that they were obsessed with. On top of that, Pythagoras was also a demigod.
Like, hey, I'm a god, even though he's human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the specific prayer they had for the number 10, and also to dedicate to Pythagoras. Bless us, divine number, thou who generated gods and men. For the divine number begins with the profound, pure unity until it comes to the holy four. Then it begets the mother of all, the all-compromising, all-bounding, the firstborn, the never-swerving, the never-tiring holy 10, the keyholder of all, by that pure, holy, four-lettered name on high, to whom to our mortal race did bring the tetractys. That is a prayer to the number 10.
God, I if I could go back, I would have hired Vincent Price to read that shit, like Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast.
Yeah.
Or it is a human number.
Let he who hath understood. Yeah. He does it better than me. But I thought I'd take a crack at a dramatic reading
great.
of the prayer.
The whole time I'm thinking, like, man, if we... Vincent would have really...
Well, I'm sorry I'm not as good as Vincent Price, man.
Okay, let me take it back. Yeah. I was imagining the sound of Vincent narrating it, but you did a fine job.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So if you couldn't get it from that, they treated him like a god. They even called him the divine Pythagoras. And like a super genius Kim Jong-un, he was also, like said to be able to tame eagles by touching them.
Right.
Yeah. He could control any wild animal with nothing but the sound of his voice. He also had a thigh that was made of gold.
Yeah.
Somehow.
A thigh made of gold.
Yeah, does he like bang it on shit and he's like, fuck, I got a dent in it now. Like it's soft metal. How does he flex his leg if it's gold? It's
right.
golden. I don't even understand how anyone ever bought that.
What about the lower part from the knee down? Like it's human?
I guess.
Or
like, so how's blood get? Are there veins in the gold
like
pumping through?
Maybe he got his leg amputated completely and has a gold thigh. They don't mention the lower leg because there was no. Yeah, that's why it's gold thigh. It's like, what? It's gold thigh. What don't you get about it? You're assuming that there's more leg, but
yeah,
it's only half a leg. Gold thigh. Okay.
Oh, yeah. On top of that, more gold. He also had a magical golden dart that if he was holding it, it allowed him to cure any disease or jump over mountains and also write words on the face of the moon.
He's like, they're like, Pythagoras, what word you write on the moon today? He's like, you're just gonna have to invent a telescope and find out, but I'm doing it with my golden dart.
I'm doing it, but I'm just doing it so small that no one could ever see it.
You gotta be a freaking math genius demigod to be able to see it. Sorry, child.
Yeah, no, don't look at me ever.
Go practice on your abacus. We'll talk a little bit.
Yeah, and it's not like he's just a normal guy who had all of this thrust upon him. Pythagoras himself provided and encouraged this nonsense as well. He said he could remember all of his past lives, fighting side by side with Achilles, or even one life as a courtesan, banging all the most powerful Greek people.
Really?
Yeah, well, let me say, banging all the most powerful Greek men. Because one of his past lives evidently was as a woman.
He's like, I got fond memories of all these Greek rulers.
So, one time he ran out into the street, and this is pretty cool of him to save a dog that some people were just beating in the middle of the street. Mm-hmm. He ran out and sort of started protecting the dog, and he stopped them after he explained, screamed at them.
Yeah,
this is my friend, his recently deceased friend. He said he recognized his voice and the barking of the dog.
Right, his recently deceased friend. Okay, let's say his friend died 4 months ago.
Yeah.
Recently.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's say this dog is like a year or two old. It doesn't say puppy.
Yeah.
So, like, does the friend's 4 months old spirit go into this 2-year-old dog, and now the dog is his friend? Or
I guess.
or wouldn't you think, like, as soon as the guy dies, his spirit goes into a baby that's born, or a ladybug that hatches, or a fish that, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
wouldn't that be how it works?
It had like time out to the like
trade-off
spawn. Like when you respawn,
boom, yeah, your door opens, you go in another door, boom, you're like in a different body that's just born too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you respawn, you don't respawn into a character that's already playing a game. You start at the respawn again. You're a new one.
Yeah, you're not like a 30-year-old Brad the Impaler and a baby dog. You're a baby dog learning how to walk.
Yeah.
But you were Brad. Yeah. Freaking Pythagoras.
Yeah, but since he could remember them all, that he meant he could now unlock secrets of the universe.
He was vegetarian.
Oh yes, they were vegetarians, but anytime they made a mathematical discovery, they would sacrifice an ox.
Hell yeah.
So they're vegetarians. They're like, yeah, it's wrong to eat like a living thing, but we're still gonna kill them every time we make a math discovery because that's what you do.
Yeah, we don't eat ox meat, no, but we just hate them. We want them dead, so we look forward to discovering new math breakthroughs.
Yeah, and for sure, sacrificing an oxen every time you make a math discovery is not the only wacky rule that the Pythagoreans were expected to follow.
Right.
Pythagoreans all had to put their right shoe on before they could put their left shoe on. That was a rule.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do have your shoes on, then you're not allowed to walk on a public road.
Yeah, they'd like walk through the woods a lot. The grass.
Yeah, they'd have to, or if you wanted to walk on the road, you have to do it barefoot. You couldn't have any shoes on.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought they never just themselves at all walked on the public roads.
Probably not, because I assume you'd much rather have shoes on than be barefoot on an ancient Greek road. Right?
What kind of shoes we talking? Just leather sandals?
Probably, yeah.
Imagine being the guy that makes shoes. You hold the power. I make the shoes. You want to walk on sharp shit? You want to walk on sharp shells and shit? Or you want to wear my shoes? Save up your gold coins and you can buy my shoes.
And then they just stab them and take all the shoes.
The king comes and goes, the king wants all your shoes. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All the knights have shoes.
They were always the king's shoes to begin with.
Right.
They also had rules about when it was okay to have sex. Pythagoras, I don't think that dude probably...
It wasn't about sex. It was about releasing fluids.
Yeah, so he thought that, your body fluids were contained, like your essence of life, like your...
Strength.
Yeah, your strength. So he said in the summer, don't ever have sex. No sexual activity in the summer under any circumstances. But if you have to, it's okay in the winter.
That's in the summer, and the guys are like, really, in the summer? When all the female cult members are wearing short togas.
Short togas, going swimming and shit.
But no summer. And we're all swimming nude and shit, but no summer. Thanks, right. Pythagoras.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah, beach season in Greece. They don't want you to have sex. All right, sure.
We'll wait till the winter when we're covered in freaking yak furs.
Yeah.
Asshole.
Although in the winter, I don't even think it... if you're on Croton, the south of Italy, right there on the Mediterranean Sea, that ain't going to be cold in the winter.
Yeah. I was just fantasizing of, blizzards. I'm like, oh, we got to put some more wood on the fire. This Greek cabin Needs to stay warm all night.
Yeah.
Winter's here.
Another thing is that even though they were constantly producing work for the outside world to distribute and, explain their cosmological beliefs and their mathematical discoveries, they were very secretive about other aspects of their organization. And in order to safeguard this, when you wanted to become a new Pythagorean, for the first 5 years, you had to never talk. You had to be completely silent for 5 years before you could be admitted to the Pythagorean School.
And what does this prove? That you can keep your mouth shut.
That you'll keep your mouth shut, that they'll be able to trust all the secrets with you.
Yeah, prove to us you can keep your mouth shut by keeping your mouth shut for 5 years.
Yeah, about everything all the time. You can never speak.
What if you got sick? Besides vomiting, what if you got sick and you were just feeling like, oh, God, please just fucking do whatever. Okay, I worship God now. Please don't make me be sick anymore. Sorry for not worshiping you.
I bet that'd start your clock all the way over at the beginning.
You're out of the freaking cult. You know what I mean? What if you?
I wouldn't kick you out for it, but I'd be like, sorry.
Like, what if you're in pain?
Take a couple days, heal up, and then start back over at day one if you want to.
Let's say you're walking, you bump your forehead on something hard, really,
you're like,
and it hurts really bad.
Oh man! And they're just like, get out!
And you got like,
all it is you're just like, and they're like, get out! That would fucking suck. You're on like day 678.
Coming around the bend.
Yeah, you're like
final stretch.
Halfway there, and you're like, ooh, and they're like, get out.
Stub your toe.
Yeah. Just like a gasp, and then they just send you away. God, what a nightmare.
But clapping was allowed because that wasn't talking.
Yeah.
You're like, excuse me.
Point at like whatever hurts on you at the doctor. Yeah.
Certain series of claps meant there was like a mathematical code to your clap pattern. Oh, here we go.
Like you're doing like Morse code.
Fibonacci code.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, good. Everybody already knows about that. Well, thanks. It's the only one you idiots can work on. So you count. Yeah, go count some.
What was first, Fibonacci sequence or the hypotenuse?
Oh, the hypotenuse one would have been way first.
All right.
Yeah. There wasn't anybody named Fibonacci yet.
Okay.
So another interesting thing about the Pythagorean school is there were two, sort of different subclasses of Pythagoreans. The mathematicoi were Pythagoras' most trusted pupils. They were privy to the full details of all of the work. That was sort of like the upper echelon of the school, were the mathematicoi. The other group were the acousmaticoi, and they were part of the cult, but not really part of the school. They did all the like Pythagoras would cook up some kind of weird new ritual or new rule about how they were supposed to live, and he would come and tell them, but he wouldn't tell them any of the math stuff. They didn't get to know any of that. They were just there to carry out his like ritual religious work. That's it. The thing about that is, though, is since they were, the acousmaticoi were like second-class citizens there, they were never allowed to see Pythagoras' face.
Yeah.
Yeah, so either he was wearing like a veil whenever he talked to them, because they were never allowed to look at his face, or he would do it from behind like a small curtain.
I thought he put like on a Chewbacca mask.
It's fine that mine's not movie quality, but
Chewbacca mom laughing. Yeah, dude, like hid behind was Wizard of Oz. The great Pythagorean has spoken.
Yeah, that's exactly how I imagine it.
Winding up wheels and
smoke fog machine going,
steam coming out,
pyrotechnics,
pulling levers.
Now, the rules for being more than just an acousmaticoi, the rules for becoming the upper echelon required that you become celibate, no sex anymore, No, like any kind of romantic relationships, nothing like that. That's all off the table. You have to accept poverty. You have to give up all of your possessions.
What about non-romantic?
I mean, I'm sure like they're friends, like they have friends or whatever, but they no sex, no love. That's out. In addition to that, you also have to be a vegetarian.
An live ox killing vegetarian.
Correct.
Got it.
A vegetarian who ritually murders animals on a regular basis. That's what you have to do.
Mm-hmm. But
less rules for the acousmaticoi. They just could never see Pythagoras.
Now Pythagoras I guess once was eating like meat. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it was, what the animal was, but the guy was like, I thought you didn't eat meat or something like that, and he's like, it was already dead. Or they say they never eat a living thing.
Oh, they had a lot of rules, but they had loopholes for them.
Yeah, he's like,
and that was like a joke that other Greek people would make about the Pythagoreans at the time about their loopholes. They'd say like,
wasn't alive when I cooked it.
Yeah, they said like they saw a guy eating a dog. Yeah, is what it was, and they said, I thought you Pythagoreans didn't eat meat, and he was like, or you didn't eat any living thing, and he was like, well, it wasn't alive. I killed it first.
Yeah, loophole.
Yeah, like just like this little trick of logic that would let them break all their rules. Yeah, I think that was relatively common.
Yeah.
Now, Pythagoras was also possibly a murderer. Or if he wasn't a murderer, they still wanted to spread the story that he was around. The story is Hippasus is one of his most famous students and the primary sort of overseer of the acousmaticoi sect of the cult, developed a proof that showed that the square root of 2 was a never-ending irrational number, which is true. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that Pythagoras had always taught that every number could be expressed as a ratio of integers, so that there could never, like how there's repeating like decimals, that is not supposed to be like a thing. Or like I don't know what I'm talking about. This is probably all wrong. Whatever irrational numbers are, I know the square root of 2 is an irrational number, and that so angered Pythagoras that it existed that he just grabbed Hippasus right then and there and drowned him, murdering him.
Like they were on a boat and he like pushed his head over the edge of the boat in the water until his body stopped moving.
Because he discovered irrational numbers. Now, other sources say that that's an exaggeration of an original claim they made after he drowned in just a normal boating accident. And they said the gods have drowned him for his blasphemy. But after people started saying that he murdered him, the Pythagoreans spread that around on purpose on their own.
Add a little mystique to their leader.
Mm-hmm. Now, on top of that, his own death was very bizarre and pretty fitting for his life and his achievements. Because it was really fucking weird.
It involves beans, right?
Yes, it definitely involves beans. The whole cult, through him, had a bizarre sort of conglomeration of beliefs regarding beans. Fava beans in particular. He taught the Pythagoreans never to touch them ever because gas came out of them because they're kind of hollow, and he believed that breath would like take the life out of you, like the air from inside the bean.
I thought it was when he was flagellant. Is the breath leaving your body?
Yeah, I thought that originally too, but when I read it closer, he said the bean is flatulent. So I think he means the air coming out of the bean because the stem's hollow.
So when you're flagellant, it's the air from inside the bean leaving your body?
Maybe. He said it at one point that gnawing on a fava bean is the same as gnawing on your parents' heads.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who hasn't had that thought?
Yeah, because of that hollow stem on the beans, the whole cult believed that the dead spirits of their ancestors would come up through the ground in order to reside in the beans.
So let me get this straight, Pythagoras. You're saying now what type of vegetation am I not supposed to eat?
Some fava beans.
Now, what if there's some kind of tasty beverage I should maybe like wash it down with?
Perhaps a nice Chianti.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, so this bizarre, sort of weird shit about fava beans factors into how Pythagoras dies. The story is some enemies of him are attacking him, and they set his house on fire. And, at this point, 495, we're talking about a 75-year-old Pythagoras.
Aww.
Yeah, so he's
in his house, not eating beans, eating a salad, eating cooked animal that was killed before it was cooked.
Yeah, maybe.
Wasn't cooked alive, was cooked dead.
Not having any sex.
He hears a crowd outside, oh, something's about to happen. And he sees torches. He's like, oh shit. He's like in his long nightgown that he's about to sleep in.
As he whirls to look out the window, you hear the swish of his toga.
He's got a candle. Hark! Who goes there? Out in the distance.
And it's a just fucking angry mob.
We're coming to kill you, nerd.
Yeah.
You come out, nerd. You're surrounded, nerd. Friggin' Hannibal's over there with his elephants crossing the Alps. He's like, we're coming. I was kidding.
Well, yeah, so they set his house on fire, and Pythagoras has to flee. So this old man Pythagoras is running around through the, Italian countryside and Croton, trying to get away from this angry mob of people who are trying to kill him. And he's doing it. Like, he's making it happen. He's getting away. But he comes upon a bean field. And instead of just, continuing to run and saving his own life, because the story at least makes it seem like he would have gotten away had he done this, he instead, refusing to damage any of the beans, just stops and waits for the people to get there and murder him, which they do by cutting his throat.
All right, let Uncle Ron paint this picture for you guys. Now, what Brad just told you may not have went down exactly like he said. Okay, no. He said a 75-year-old man was being chased from his home by an angry mob. Mm-hmm. Okay, finally he comes up on a field. And
you can imagine him running. And
I'm painting.
You're gonna do it. All right,
Uncle Ron. Rip. This is Uncle
Ron's imagination hour.
I imagine this whole thing taking about 30 seconds. They set his house on fire. What? 75-year-old man comes out. What is this? And they're like, we're going to kill you. So he's like, starts running. He's 75. Running. He's like, oh, fuck. And the crowd's like watching him run. They're like trotting, like pretending that they can't keep up with him. Finally, he like crosses like one road to like the neighbor's farmland, and it's fava beans. Like this whole thing goes out like in an acre.
Yeah, probably. I mean,
we're talking a 75-year-old, and a crowd is chasing him.
I mean, if they
how old's the crowd?
But that's another thing though too. It could have played out the original way because
how old is the crowd?
This weird old dork. Who is going to be his enemies except for other weird old dorks, right? It's the same thing about they were so obsessed with keeping their like mathematical and numerical research secret. Every fucking dork who'd give a shit about that was probably already at the school, right?
Right.
So like somebody could be walking down the street. I could be walking down the street right now with nothing to do, not in a hurry or anything. Somebody could be like, hey, do you want to see some secret math? I'd be like, go fuck yourself. I don't give a shit about secret math. I probably won't understand it anyway. All the people who would why were they bothering to keep it a secret? Anybody who'd care would go there.
Do I look like a dork? Are you taking me for a dork?
Do you see how clean this toga is? Like, look at these lines. Look at these sandals. I'm pulling, trim left and right. You think I want to go to your fucking math club? Come on. You think I'm going to try to steal your math knowledge?
I'll tell you what. Thank you for your math work.
Yeah.
Because I've got a date in Athens.
I'm so sorry that I can't get your secret math away from you, little guy.
I'm about to...
But then again, secret math does sound kind of cool. If somebody was like, hey, I know secret math, I'd be like, what's up with the secret math?
Is it going to help me get millions of dollars? Is it going to help me win the lottery, maybe? Algorithm?
Yeah, see, that's what started going through my head. Maybe it will. Maybe I can use the secret math in some way. So maybe they were right. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that would you hunt down secret math? Would it like intrigue you? Or would you be like, I stopped giving a shit about math when I was 9, so get out of my way. I don't care about the secret math. Which one are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can let us know over on Twitter at Dinner and Hell Pod.
And then any of the audience members want to just let us know in person before they leave.
Yeah.
Slip a little note in the comment box.
In the suggestion box on the way. You got cards?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you guys can let us know on your way out the door. We're
this freaking band.
Oh, it's sounding so good.
So yeah.
Other than Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, you name it.
I googled Dinner in Hell podcast. I googled it, and there was like 8 pages of stuff, and there was like all these weird sites that host and link our like video sites that link our YouTube videos, like aren't even on YouTube, but they took them from YouTube.
Yeah, I think some of you are probably getting this from the Russian language sites that have all our stuff on it.
Yeah, it's weird. So, and hello to all the different countries that check in on us. That's awesome to see.
Yeah, we're global.
That's right. We welcome you.
As long as you speak English, because I'm not competent at any other language because I'm an American.
Mi casa, su casa. That means,
Konnichiwa.
in Spanish, that means welcome. Pleasant one. Ahlan was ahlan is Arabic. It means like welcome to.
The only Arabic I know is
welcome to my home. Ahlan was ahlan. You ever seen Iron Man? Remember when he's in the cave?
Yeah.
And then the big guy busts in and goes, Tony Stark!
Yeah.
He goes, Ahlan West Ahlan. He's like, welcome to my freaking cave. Like, welcome, you bitch. No, it doesn't mean welcome, you bitch, but yeah. In Iron Man, it does.
All right. Well, that's it for this week. Thank you, Ron, for a great show. Thanks to the audience.
Thanks to the band.
The band, the listeners at home. You guys have a great night.
Thank you, Brad.